Hello friends, today's super soldier tutorial is going to include my favorite poses that I use to open up the hips and warm up and lengthen the hamstrings. Both of those things are essential for practicing this fun little bind. So let's get into it and I'll show you how I warm up for super soldier pose. Depending on your body, you may want to grab a couple of blocks or books to use for this warm-up pose. A low lunge where you step one foot to the top of the mat and sink the hips as low to the mat as you can. You can place the hands on blocks if the mat feels too far away. Untuck that back toe and let gravity really sink your hips low. You can place the hands on the knee or, like I said, onto your blocks. You can bring the weight forward, but staying upright really helps gravity work in your favor and increase this stretch in both of your hips, especially the front of the back hip. Make sure you do both sides. You'll find that one hip is probably going to feel much more open than the other, and that's totally normal. We just want to make sure we're doing stuff evenly on both sides so that we can be properly warmed up. To increase the stretch, make sure the glute of your back leg is on so you can really feel the stretch and opening in the front of that hip. You can keep your blocks handy for this next half split stretch. So kneeling at the back of the mat, again extending one leg in front of you, but this time keeping the weight over the back knee and folding over the straight leg. Make sure that this straight leg is flexed, your foot flexed back towards your face. And again, using the blocks, if the mat just feels too far away for your hands, we want to make sure our spine is nice and long. So we don't want to curve out too much, but still fold forward. You can rock back and forth between that low lunge we were just in and this half split, and that really helps open the hips and warm up both hamstrings. My next favorite warm-up for this super soldier is a traditional half pigeon pose. So taking one knee bent out in front of you, extending the other leg behind you, we want to square off the hips. So that means the top of that back foot is resting on the mat. If the hips are floating in the air, take a block or pillow and put it underneath one hip to try and keep things nice and square. Sitting up tall, again, gravity is working for you. When you're comfortable there, you can start to fold over that bent leg into this sleepy pigeon, and that really opens up even more. Again, make sure you're doing the same thing on both sides, both legs. One will feel different than the other, more tight or more open, and we just want to make sure we're sort of evening things out. Downward facing dog is one of those foundational poses that we often forget. One of the main functions of this pose is lengthening the hamstrings. So after you sort of rock back and forth in the heels and then find stillness in downward dog, we're going to keep our legs as straight as we can as we walk up towards the hands. So we do this a lot of times in a vinyasa flow, where we're sort of taking ourselves to the top of the mat into a forward fold, but we're really focusing on long hamstrings. When you get to your forward fold, rising up halfway or up until you have that flat back, and then exhaling as you fold, going back and forth between those inhales and exhales. So inhaling up to a flat back and exhaling down to your fold. Then with straight legs, taking that slow walk backwards into your downward facing dog, leading with the heels and those long hamstrings. You can really lengthen and strengthen the hamstrings by going back and forth from downward dog to your forward fold with these straight legged walks, forward and backward repeatedly. If you follow me on Instagram, you know nothing is complete without some three-legged dogs. So from here, your downward facing dog, you reach push one heel to the sky, and it's important to lead with the heel so you keep the hips square. We're pushing out of the shoulders and reaching with that heel, a flexed foot, towards the back of your mat. Then as you open up the hips, you can take that leg quite a bit higher, but still keep the foot flexed. That's really putting the focus on the hamstrings, on the standing leg and on the lifted leg. You can then relax and bend that knee, pointing your kneecap towards the sky. While your knee is bent, take some big hip circles a few times each direction, lubricating that joint while it's up in the air and there's no pressure on it. As you take your three-legged dog on the other side and do all of these warm-ups the same way, start to notice which of your hips feels more open, so you have an idea of which side you would like to try first when you're doing this super soldier, because this position with the knee pointed towards the sky is right where we're going to be when we try out this variation, this bind. Before we get into the tutorial of our super soldier, we want to see how comfortable we are in a standing split. Essentially, that's what this pose is. We're just binding the top leg. In a traditional standing split, both legs are straight, and we use one arm to pull the torso closer to the leg, the other arm for stability on the ground. If you're working in a body with tighter hamstrings, focus on keeping the spine nice and long, hands further away from that standing leg, and keeping both legs straight. Try out both sides to see again which side, which hamstring is more lengthened, more warmed up. For those in tighter bodies, you can also take your yoga blocks and put the hands there instead of the mat to help really lengthen out the torso and then lift the leg a little bit higher. Okay, without flashing you too much here, this is how I enter this bind. When you fold down like you're going into your standing split, you tuck your shoulder underneath the same side leg, grabbing on to whatever leg is going to the sky, and then, like I said, pointing the kneecap towards the ceiling. Your arm on the floor is there for helping you balance, and then just slowly release the leg when you want to come back down. Try to get your torso as close to that standing leg as possible, your torso really hugging that thigh, before tucking that shoulder underneath, keeping both legs bent, grabbing the top of your foot that will go to the sky, and then straighten out that leg as you point the knee to the sky. Here's what this entrance looks like from the back. If you look at it this way, it kind of looks like an upside down compass pose. So you can sort of see how the alignment is similar to compass. We're just up on the standing leg. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks so much for watching. If you have further questions about this, drop them in the comments. I always reply. Remember to use those warm-up poses and have fun.